In 1845, potato plants and fields across Ireland began turning black and rotten. The potato crop failure was even greater the next 4 years. Crop failure was a hardship that devastated the lives of millions of Irish. This starvation that happened in Ireland in 1845 to 1849 became known as the Great Famine, the Great Hunger, and the Irish Potato Famine. This was a period of starvation and disease in Ireland that caused the death of over 1 million Irish. The potato crop failure was caused by late blight, a disease that destroys both the leaves and edible roots of the plant. Many Irish peasants relied on potato farming for their main source of income and food. With the potato crop failure, they had little food to eat and no money to pay their rent. Because of this, many Irish poor found themselves hungry and homeless. Famine became widespread across Ireland. Many of them died of starvation, and without food to eat, sick people could no longer fight off disease, causing more deaths. This mass starvation and disease forced many Irish to flee to seek refuge in nearby countries. Many of them went to docks and piers of Merseyside in England. Merseyside Docks comprises 5 metropolitan boroughs: Knowsley, St. Helens, Sefton, Wirral, and the city of Liverpool. From 1845 to 1849, nearly 50,000 refugees thronged into Liverpool for their lives and safety. Among them were the families of James Macartney. James, who was a handyman by trade, settled in Everton district and worked as a house painter. In 1866, he had a son named Joseph, who became a leaf cutter at Cope's Tobacco Factory and a keen amateur musician playing the E-flat tuba in the factory's own brass band. Joe loved opera and played E-flat double bass in the local Territorial Army Band that entertained regularly in Stanley Park and at the commemorative parades that snaked along Netherfield Road. When he wasn't marching, there were evening practices with his brass band. He often played double bass at home to encourage his children to pursue some form of music. He had also organized concerts and sing-songs for his neighbors. In 1896, Joseph married Florence Clegg, daughter of a local fishmonger. Joe and Florrie had 9 children, and they lived in a tiny terrace house in Solva Street in Everton district. One of their sons was named James, who was also called as Jim. Jim, who had a misadventure when he was 10, when he fell off a wall and damaged his right ear permanently deaf, proved to have a natural musical ear, which allowed him to teach himself the trumpet and the piano. He also learned by himself a shorthand method of chording that allowed him to play along with popular songs of his time. In every chance, he entertained by playing for family gatherings. On summer days, more than a dozen of his neighbors gathered in Solva Street below the window of Macartney's parlor and danced to his accompaniment into the night. Jim went to work as a sample boy in the office of A. Hannay and Company, one of the myriad cotton firms servicing the Lancashire Mill. He worked 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. But he was so much preoccupied with pop music, he would stumble home from work, stay just long enough for dinner, then hit the road looking for a jam. During the early 1920s, Jim formed a semi-professional quintet dance band that included his older brother Jack on trombone. They wore Zorro-style black mask or face clothes and called themselves the Mask Music Makers. But the heat of performing made the dye in the mask trickle down their faces, so they renamed their band as Jim Mac Jazz Band, with Jim playing the horn. They played at social dance halls around Liverpool with a repertoire of ragtime standards and one original composition called Eloise. Their biggest engagement was providing incidental music for a silent Hollywood epic, The Queen of Sheba. When a chariot race began on the screen, the band played Thanks for the Buggy Ride. During the Queen's death scene, they played Horsey, Keep Your Tail Up. James McCartney, or more known to his friends and family as Jim, was a swinging bachelor and musician until he got married at the age of 39. He supported himself during the day as sample boy and eventually as a salesman at the Cotton Exchange. At nights and weekends, he was the leader of a popular Liverpool swing band, Jim McJazz Band. Jim's musical career wound down in 1930. At the time, he was promoted to the position of salesman. One day in June 1940, while Jim was visiting his widowed mother in Norris Green, he met a hospital nurse of similarly Irish origins, named Mary Patricia Mohin, who was boarding with his sister Jean. During this time, German air raids still continued intermittently. While Jim and Mary were getting acquainted, the sirens began to wail as Hitler's Luftwaffe started the raid, forcing them to continue their conversation in the Andersons' shelter in the garden. As they huddled together inside the shelter, Jim finally fell in love. Jim and Mary began dating that summer, but because of the difficulties and hardships in life brought by World War II, as Liverpool was a prime target by Hitler's Luftwaffe, marriage came a year later. Jim and Mary got married in April 1941. Their first child, a boy, was born on 18th of June 1942 at Walton General Hospital. The boy was at first named as James, after the boy's father's name, and the boy's great-grandfather's name, who brought the clan from Ireland to Liverpool in England. But Mary, who wondered how she would distinguish the men from each other, decided to add a saintly middle name, Paul. So the baby, who arrived in a state of white asphyxia caused by lack of oxygen in the brain and appeared not to be breathing, was named James Paul McCartney, who would be known worldwide as Paul McCartney. Subscribe to be notified automatically for new upload. Thank you for watching.